You know what's the most toxic thing I've ever heard? That oftentimes I'm sure you've had people say it to you too. My son is my king. Let's pause for a moment. If we go with the concept that women are queens, how is your son your freaking king? I don't know. It sounds a little to me. I don't care who gets mad at that, but it's the truth. Your son is your prince. Your son is not your king. You are not supposed to be putting that type of pressure on your child. That's a little low key funny to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to have the discussion today in regards to how a lot of times mothers, especially single mothers, put so much pressure on their sons to be the man that they ain't got. But yeah, anyways. So we have to understand, right? This type of climate that we have with the dating era, especially the dating pool, it's a cesspool, if you ask me. There's a whole bunch of piss and poop in this dating pool. It's a little trash. But why is it like this? You know what I mean? We have to like sit back and wonder, how did we even get here to put in that type of pressure on our kids, especially our sons? Because it ends up coming to a point as the son gets older that they have this very toxic dynamic with their mothers, and that could either be them being a like a extreme mama's boy and literally living their life where they don't have to disappoint their moms, or you have it where the son ends up resenting the mom because he feels as though he was never able to live his adolescent childhood and be a boy that grows into a man. He was given way too much whatchamacallit, what's the word I'm looking for? He was given far too much responsibility at an early age. Like, we have to be honest, that's not cool. You know what I mean? And then we wonder why, as our sons get older, if we're carrying out this type of dynamic with them, they end up going into the dating market and then they meet women and it's a clusterfuck of a show because they don't know how to um, appropriately relationship or conflict with women. If we think about how they say, I mean, the reality is like, hey, Michelle, you can't raise a man. As a woman, we are not here to raise men. I am one of those women who understands that. So therefore, my son is not, I'm not raising him to be a man. I'm raising him to have the emotional intelligence that is necessary to have the capabilities of relationshiping and conflicting. And then I have his, like the male influences in his life, including uncles and, you know, that's who is teaching him how to be a man, because I can't teach him how to be a man. I know this and I'm not going to try. I'm not doing that whole, oh, it's Father's Day, well, you know what, say happy Father's Day to me too. I'm not doing all that. You want to know why? Because at the end of the day, that's very toxic, and it speaks a lot about you as the mother. Like, let's be real. Do we really want our sons to be out here and possibly not really having the emotional capabilities of compassion and understanding and empathy, so on and so forth? Or do we want our sons to be hyper masculine and, essentially, sorry, it's like coming to me. When we talk about that misogynistic way of being, that's that hyper alpha mentality. That probably comes from a lot of men who really have been forced to be the man of the house since an early age. Like, that's just something that really just came to me right now. And it makes a lot of sense if you put it into that perspective. Because in all reality, like, why are there such things as misogynistic men? You know what I mean? It's almost kind of like the Napoleon, what the fuck is that called, Lee? The Napoleon Complex. Look at me. I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm just letting you guys know. This is like literally, I just stumbled out of bed, got myself together, and I said, you know what? Let's throw this mic in front of my fucking face and let's see what comes out. But no, in all seriousness, like the Napoleon Complex. When we think about the Napoleon Complex in a psychological term, we're talking about like the hyper masculinity, the misogyny, and like the over the top patriarchy, type of mentality. Because when we think about civilizations through centuries, right? Men always led, right? The women always were considered like the helpmates. You know what I'm saying? And I do have a theory on regards to how we have these different kinds of women, which is going to be very interesting for me to bring up. I'm gonna try to remind myself later to bring that up because it is a very interesting theory I have. But when we sit there and we talk about the Napoleon complex and the no, I'm sorry. See, look at that. Touch a span of a dog. I already lost where I was going. So when we talk about the centuries and how the women were considered to like, be the helpmates, the men were the ones that were making the moves, so on and so forth, because men essentially they do build villages, they build communities, they build cities and towns and essentially everything we fucking use. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real. Let's give them their fucking credit. Here, men, here's your flowers, I got you. Like, y'all really do the damn thing when it comes down to it. You guys are able to do the hard labor because you're built for the hard labor. Now, as far as me as a woman, I am here for like, the emotional touch of things, the nurturing, like, I make your house that you built a home, so on and so forth. And in all reality, I'm not trying to be out there doing all the construction stuff. I don't want to be over there going into the manholes and trying to, make sure the concrete is straight. I don't want to do none of that stuff. And, when we sit here and have these women who are hyper independent and stuff like that, a lot of that trickles back, through cycles of us being taught that and conditioned that way. Because at the end of the day, when we really think about it, that goes all the way back to slavery times. Like the trajectory of how we have evolved into a society as what stands as today essentially comes down to the slave Atlantic trade and how they decided to take over this part of the Americas. Because if we are technical, America is literally the whole continent. That is South America, North America, all in one. That is the Americas. They went ahead and divided it as South and North. And then from there, we created the subdivisions of the United States and Canada, so on and so forth. Let's be technical. You know what I mean? And anyways, so when we really get down to the nitty gritty in regards to how we are where we are today, it's because if we think back to slavery times and prior to slavery being reformed, okay, it was never abolished, it was reformed. We had these colonizers or masters, which etymology goes over how, you know what, I'm gonna bring that up another day when we talk about the school system and stuff, because it's a fucking hoax half the time. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So during slavery, they were buck breaking our men, right? So when we think about how we even got here to like how the men and women, especially within the black community, stand the way that they stand today. So you have the men getting buck broken, and so the women are led to basically say like, essentially, this is not, verbatim. This is like, an understanding of a, like maybe a perspective, because remember, we're all about perspective. Where the women were like, okay, if you got put in that type of position, you can't save yourself. How can you save me? So then that puts us in a survival mode. And when we come into survival mode, we come into animal instincts. And then as a human with the animal instincts, we're going to do what is necessary for us to get through, right? Now, when we think about the black community, the culture is all derived from survival. That's it. Um, and when we go down into the concept and the history of the soul food, if we go in the concept and the history of a lot of things within the black community, it has a lot to do with survival, which I will be the first to say that the black history is beautiful because of the fact that we're able to see how innovative, how strong, how united we can become, and how great can come from being united. But when we go into back to the perspective in regards to like how women basically started raising their sons to be submissive to authority, right? So that they don't get killed. And then you have them raising their daughters to not necessarily rely on their men. You know what I mean? and to essentially be able to look out for themselves. Now, if we take that perspective and bring it over to the modern day, this is why we have women saying, I don't need no nigga, I don't need no man, blah, 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 and excuse the N word, because at the end of the day, that's just how they talk. And they have a lot of the um, boys being raised where, like, essentially the mom coddles them, or, like, tries to get them to submit to authorities and things of that nature, so they don't necessarily stand up for themselves because they essentially fear of their sons being killed. Then we have the concept of how the women are raised, much harsher than the sons are. The sons are given a lot more leeway. But either way, it goes over to now when we bring in the concept and the perspective of the women saying, my son is my king, my son is the head of the household. It's literally their way of replacing the man in the home, because they can't have the man in the home, because a lot of times a lot of us are on welfare or are in public housing, or just simply can't even relationship in conflict, therefore we run men away. Let's let that sink in. Those are really the three essential reasons why we're behind on the drawing board when it comes to the nuclear families, when we used to not have this problem. We've come into a time where women want to say that they are oppressed, and kind of like what I talked about in the last ending of the video that we just did last week. And, we're sitting here and acting as if we essentially don't have, like, we're still fighting for our rights. We're still fighting. What the fuck are we really fighting for? Like, let's be for real right now. What are we really fighting for? Can you tell me? Because this shit don't make no damn sense. What are we really fighting for? We literally have everything we want. You want to go get a job? Go get a job. You want a good paying job? Go get a good paying job. Have that resume nice and tight. You want to get your education? Go get your education, girl. You could get those student loans and all that. You qualify just the same. Oh, hey, that's an interesting perspective right there. There's, I gotta do some research on that, but what he had said, if you guys couldn't hear him, was a lot of times, women have a better chance of getting the job and getting the, student loans or the degree or whatever that a man does. And when we think about it, I always tell women, especially my clients, when, like, we all desire love, right? We all desire to have that special person for us. We have to understand we're coming into an age of just understanding what is the bond. You know what I mean? Every bond is unique. There's not no one answer for what the bond is. But we'll talk about that in the next video, because this video I want to keep it focused on the whole my son is my king concept, because it's ooh, that's a bad word. It is challenging, okay? It is very, very specially challenging. Don't come for me, all right? Listen, it just slipped. It's a Freudian slip, I wonder. No, son. Let me chill. Anyways, so yeah, it's really ass backwards when we think about it in that way. Like, our son is not our king. Our son will be a king to a woman that he meets and decides to be with at a later point, but it's not us, and that's a little. You know what I'm saying? We don't do all that, which I actually do. I actually heard a story. It's a little concerning, but there was essentially a mom who was dating her son, and it's disgusting. I'm telling you, it's disgusting. How people do this, I don't even understand. I really try to get a very good grasp and understanding on people's mentality and mindset and so on and so forth, but some people are very complex, and I think a little too complex. Like, that ain't an onion. We ain't peeling back those onions, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just too much. But we have to understand that the lines always get blurred when boundaries are not set. And when we have our children, we need to have them understand that we are here as their supporters. We are here as their guides. We're essentially their freaking coach. You know what I'm saying? And we're not here for breeding children so they could become successful and then later take care of us. That's not their obligation. And far too many times we rely on things of that nature. I'm sure there's plenty of men out there who are dating women and, they have their moms on their backs, and the woman is basically essentially never good enough for him because of the fact that the mom wants the son to herself. Does that make sense? Does that really really make sense? Like I like who it go oh my god, there was that one time that you have the mother, the sister, the daughter, the baby mama, and the wife. How do you organize that? Who goes first? There's guys who really will say like it's the daughter, the mother, then the wife, and then the baby mother. I mean the sister, then the baby mother. Boy, if you trying to get divorced, you trying to get divorced in like 2.5 seconds, because I'll be damned if you're going to sit there and put your mother before me. I'm sorry. Like, your mother, we love her. But at the end of the day, we are a unit. We are our family. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way that it should always go is, wait, how does it? Right. So it's yeah, I agree with that one. That was the one that I did say to a lot because I asked a few of my male clients that, and some of them, definitely. Now I actually had one that put the BM before the wife. I said, "Oh boy, you trying to get killed." Yo, he was like, "Nah, you have to understand that if my BM's good, my kid is good." I get that concept, but I'm sorry if the BM can't sit there and for like we're gonna call it a baby mom. I don't care. I know we talk about put some respect on it, but some of these women need to be labeled as a baby mama. But if regardless if it's the mother of your child or the baby mama, whatever you want to call her, there's no way that she comes before your wife. I'm sorry. If if she is unable to sustain the child, but you are, take the freaking kid. Let her figure it the fuck out and let her get the kid back. I don't know. Figure it the hell out. But you guys supposed to be working together as co-parents. That's not you're not supposed to be taking care of a whole grown ass woman when the only child that you bared was the child that is the little one that you're obligated to take care of for their overall well-being until they turn about 18, and then after that they kind of figure it out on their own because they're adults. But hopefully you equip them enough. I'm not saying them kick them out because that's very popular within the black community, especially where we kick out our kids at the age of 17, 18. But let's be real, let's not do that. You know what I'm saying? It's counterproductive. Let's do what the white folk and every other race that, well, especially the Asians too, we all stay in the same damn house until each of us can afford a house. You know what I'm saying? They got a pot going. Like we're the only ones that, and then we wonder why we're like behind on the freaking the monopoly board. Did you know that like in 1865 we only owned 0.5% of property or land in the United States? Do you want to know what that number is in 2020? 0.5. Ain't that some fucking shit? Like, what the fuck? And then let's not even get into the fact that we in 2020, either 2020 or 2021 alone, we spent $1.6 trillion within the black community. Just the black community. $1.6 trillion. A lot of people have to wake up because this is crazy. We behind on the chalkboard for no given reason. We are in our own way. Which is why, even with this whole concept of dating and, raising children, we're doing it to ourselves at this point. We got to wake up, smell the coffee, and really change the trajectory. But it's more so changing yourself first. Because once you change your mindset, you change your outcome. It's been proven over and over. But anyways, so we have to stop this my son is my king concept, because your son is not your king. Your son is your son. All right? Equip that boy to understand that it is okay to cry, but he doesn't need to cry for every little thing. Equip that boy to understand that there's far more emotions within him other than happiness, sadness, and anger. Equip that boy to understand that he needs to be able to relationship and conflict with, other men as well as women. Equip that boy to understand that you are here as a supporter and a guidance. You're not here to control his life. Okay? As parents, we are simply here to equip our children with the resources, knowledge, and tools readily accessible to us to give them so that they can learn in how to master their energy and their discernment so they can make the proper choices for themselves. We were kids one day. At the end of the day, last thing we wanted was to have our parents telling us what to do and what not to do, so on and so forth, because sometimes what they knew was outdated and we kind of was able to figure out what was best to move based on the climate of the generation or society we're in that very moment. So our parents are really just here to instill the the emotional intelligence, the moral compass, principles and morals. That's it. That's it. You're not here to control your child. You're here. Your child's not here for you to live vicariously through them. Your child's not here to replace what you lack. It's just not what it is. So stop calling your son your damn king. Okay. Bye, y'all.